It's here. It's mid. Get used to it. The 14th anniversary bundle blog has dropped. We thought, based on the tweets, there would be a live stream last night, but there wasn't one. And if you're wondering if they put the Parliament back in, changed the premium ship, added another premium ship, the answer is no. If there's been any changes to address the player outrage that's been going on so far, it hasn't manifested yet as of the time of recording. So, what's going on and what do you get? Starting on February 15th, that's tomorrow on PC, it'll be available to buy. And then on March 28th, console will be able to get it. And what do you get for your hard earned money? Well, you get the Atlantis Temporal Destroyer, the Ahawani Command Carrier, the Chekov Intel Science Warship, the Princeton Miracle Worker Cruiser, and bafflingly, confusingly, idiotically, for some reason, they put in the Tal Shiar Mandakar class adapted destroyer. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that, other than the fact that it's tangentially just sort of Borg related. It's not even like an assimilated ship. It's not a Borg ship. It's a ship that the Tal Shiar, the Romulans, modified with Borg tech they reverse engineered. So it's very loosely Borg adjacent, but it's old. It's not very good. It's just a really weird choice. I'm not going to be the first person you've heard complain about this. If they insisted on giving us one of these Tal Shiar ships, they should have given us the battle cruiser instead. That at least has a really good trait, at least for science, for exotic builds. As it is, this ship is it just sucks. It's not good at all. They also threw in the Lafayette Recon Destroyer. That's not a new ship, but it is a tier 6 ship, and they tossed it in there. I do think this has come at the cost of a tier 6 coupon, though. I might be wrong, but we're only getting one tier 6 coupon this time. I feel like we got more in the past, but maybe I'm misremembering that. We also get the Constellation Heavy Cruiser refit, but that's just a tier 3. You can, that's not hard to get. You can get those with dilithium now, so not much of an inclusion there. What do you get for the account-wide reclaimable exclusives? So these are reclaimable, they are account wide, and they are exclusives. Those are important to keep in mind there. And I think the exclusives here are going to sell me personally. I would expect a lot of you guys, based on what's happening with the premium ship, to just use any tier 6 coupons you have saved up, or to just buy the ships individually and not get the whole bundle. But I like hanger pets, so they are going to get me on this one. You get a Type 3 phaser rifle, which is from Star Trek First Contact. By the way, if you hear some construction noises in the background, I apologize. There's nothing I can do about that. You also get the Borg Kingdom Interceptor Probe Frigate Hangar Pets. These look pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on these. You get a ground trait and a space trait, and these are account-wide reclaimable. So you can just get them on all your characters. I don't think they're really like the best thing ever, but the fact that they are exclusives and they're account reclaimable is pretty nice. I am happy with that. One-time bundle exclusives, one tier 6 ship coupon, feels cheap to me. It costs them nothing. They can just go in and tweak this number. I really think this ought to be 2, especially if they're not going to give us a different premium ship. So, 2 things I think would be kind of a bare minimum, to be honest. Switch this to the battle cruiser or the Parliament, or add the Parliament, or give us a different ship, and then give us a second tier 6 ship coupon. Come on, guys. 1 coupon. I'm not feeling that. 6 ship trait slots. But that's really just to accommodate the ships you're buying. It's irritating that you still have to buy ship slots for the ships that you're buying. So to me, this isn't really like an extra. It's just something that should always come with the ships you buy. 6 experimental upgrade tokens, 14 ultimate tech upgrades. Those are pretty nice. 14 master keys. What a joke. You probably can't sell them anyway. And then a title. That makes it all worth it, I suppose. So the value packed bundle will be for sale for 13,125 Zen, 25% off for a limited time. That starts on PC starting tomorrow through the 29th, after which it will remain available indefinitely. Each of the four new starships will also be available individually, and those will be on sale as well. So if you just want to buy the four ships one at a time, you can get them each for 2,400 Zen, or use your coupons if you have any of those. Here is the phaser rifle. I do like this. I'm a fan of the TNG era stuff, so I'm gonna looking forward to putting those on a bunch of my characters. Then you also get these Borg Kingdom Interceptor probes, and these have kind of a neat functionality. I don't know how good they're going to be in terms of like performance or anything. They have two 360-degree anti-proton beam arrays, so they'll always be able to hit something. Permanent beam fire at will 1, so they always have beam fire at will active. They have mutual annihilation, self-destruct slash ram combo, so they will kamikaze suicide into things. And then, in order to make up for the fact that they're suiciding themselves, they have a reduced base hangar launch cooldown, so you can launch more of them more frequently. So you can just keep chucking them out, and they'll just spray fire at will at everything while they're on a suicide mission. I do like the flavor of that. That's pretty neat. Then we get the Liberated Borg Kingdom Nanoprobe traits, a space and a ground one. They're both basically the same thing, just a space and a ground version of the same effect. You get 2 to 20 kinetic damage resistance and 2 to 20 crit severity with energy weapons, grows every 5 seconds. Now, how much does it grow every 5 seconds? Does it grow by 2? Because it starts at 2, so it makes me think it'll increase by 2. So you're going to need at least 10 of these ticks, or 9 ticks, I suppose, if you start at 2, to get up to 20. And then that means you're going to need like 45 seconds. But it's account wide reclaimable, so it's probably worth just slapping on there. Yeah, not too bad. And then the ground trait is nearly the same. You get the kinetic damage resistance, but then instead of it only being energy weapons in space, it's just crit severity with all of your weapons. Okay, let's get past that and start looking at the actual ships themselves. First up, the Atlantis Temporal Destroyer. This class is another fine example of modular starship experiments. Briefly, I'm not going to read all this flavor stuff. The link to this blog post will be in the description, so if you want to read like the fluffy stuff, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm just saying for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to read it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the stats. It is a temp op ship, so you get a commander tactical slash temp op. You could do recursive shearing with that, build if you wanted to. It comes with a lieutenant commander universal intel, which is also nice. Intel seating is great. So if you're using energy weapons, you get your recursive shearing going. You get your override subsystem safeties. You can get your uncon procs, and then you get a lieutenant commander science, so you don't have to use this one for that as well. So you can really take advantage of the intel seating and still be able to have a gravity well and still be able to get your normal science stuff in there. So if you're trying to do like a recursive shearing energy weapon type build, I think this seating is actually pretty good here. It has 5-4 2 aft weapon configuration. It does have it has a 5-2-1 weapon configuration, so you do get an experimental weapon slot, and it does come with an experimental weapon, a brand new one. And of course, they all have traits and consoles. So let's scroll down a little bit and look at this. Console Universal Disassembler Emitter. So it provides a passive increase to exotic damage based on energy weapon training skill, and a bonus to energy weapon damage based on your exotic particle generator skill. Depending on how much it is, that might not be too bad, but probably not something you'd want to put the console on for. The clicky affects foes 5 max. It does this sort of big cone damaging thing that spreads out, and it does scaling radiation damage, and it applies a -15 damage resistance rating reduction, which is pretty good. Damage resistance rating reduction effects are always good, so I don't know how relevant this console is going to be, but it's probably not bad for sure. The trait Temporal Tunneling, while this trait is slotted, activating an exotic damage bridge officer ability or any temp off bridge officer ability, will grant your ship a brief but powerful bonus to weapon firing cycle haste. It may only trigger once every several seconds. So, when triggered max once per 15 seconds, you get a 100% firing cycle haste for energy weapons for 5 seconds. Now, let's compare this to Calm Before the Storm. Calm Before the Storm has a 2/3 uptime where you have like a 1/3 lead in where it's building up stacks, and then it converts, and then you get 2/3 uptime on 33% firing cycle haste, plus bridge officer cooldown, plus while it's building up, you get damage resistance. And that just does it automatically all the time. You don't have to trigger it or anything. This you have to trigger, and it only has a 1/3 uptime. So you only get 5 seconds of uptime out of every 15 seconds. But 100% firing cycle haste, even at 1/3 uptime, is still on average more haste than Calm Before the Storm. But here's the kicker. You are going to need an exotic damage ability or a temp op ability in order to trigger it. And you're going to need to be able to trigger that ability every 15 seconds. And you're probably going to need to baby it a little bit to make sure that you're hitting that ability at the right time so that you're not wasting that 5 second window. Because if you're just put it on your spam bar and you're just spam, that 5 second window might coincide with while you're turning around to get the enemies into your firing arc, or at the tail end of you moving, into range of the next group of enemies or whatever. So I think if you're not careful about when you trigger it, this could end up being worse than Calm Before the Storm. You don't get all the benefits, and you really have to pay attention to the timing on this one. It's very powerful, but it's only 1/3 uptime. So got to be very careful about how you trigger it. Overall, though, in the right hands on the right build, this looks extremely powerful, and I think that meta players are probably going to end up incorporating this somehow. Experimental weapon Focused Particle Cannon. So it's 180-degree targeting arc, and it does a moderate radiation damage, increasing with aux power and Starship Particle Generator skill. I mean, you never know until you test a thing. I can't really see this being super useful, but it's always nice to have more experimental weapons in the game. So more stuff is good. Next up, the Ahawani Command Carrier, aka the Disappointment Boat. So it is a full command ship. You get a Commander Science/Commands. It has a 3/3 weapon layout, and it has a Lieutenant Commander Engineering Miracle Worker. Now, at first glance, that seems like it might not be too bad. Sure, you're only getting a 3/3, so you can only get 6 weapons, but Command and Miracle Worker go together pretty well. Maybe you could do like torpedoes or something on it, right? Well, wrong, because it only has one tactical console slot. And if you're doing torpedoes or kinetics, you want tactical console slots so that you can put in locators and exploiters. The engineering console slots are only good for energy weapons. And yeah, it has a Miracle Worker seat, but only a Lieutenant Commander one, and it only has 6 weapons. It just kind of sucks. I mean, even if it had 5 tactical console slots, it still wouldn't be great. But as it is, this is a dud. I think this thing sucks. It also only has a turn rate of 7, which is not great. Okay, but enough about that. Let's take a look at what it comes with, because it may still be worth your purchase. The Console Universal Fleet Power Network Array gives an increase to max aux power and EPG generation, so that might be okay. The Clicky, to a friend and up to 12 pets they control. 62.5% weapon cycle speed for 35 seconds. 35 seconds is a long time. 65% chance to apply one of Beam Overload, Cannon Rapid Fire, Torpedo High Yield. Okay, it's all the single target stuff. So it has a chance to apply Beam Overload, Cannon Rapid Fire, or High Yield every few seconds for 35 seconds. So you can feed a bunch of firing modes, to hangar pets. This might be pretty good for like a nanny or support craft, because you do get that weapon cycle haste for 35 seconds on a clicky that you can use on somebody else. So I could see this maybe making its way onto a support build, but otherwise maybe a little bit, mediocre. Flagship staffing, this is the trait, using a command, whole heal, or shield heal bridge officer ability on an ally or allies, resets the cooldown and reduces the shared category cooldown of weapon firing modes on that ship or ships. This effect has a moderate cooldown. Now, as I understand it, the cooldown on this effect is once every 30 seconds, and the shared category cooldown is basically the thing that, like, if you have like a firing mode like beam overload, okay, normally you can only use it once every 30 seconds, but it has a shared cooldown with other copies of itself of 15 seconds. So if you were to put two copies of beam overload on your ship. Then, if you use one, it starts a 30-second cooldown. But 15 seconds into that, the shared cooldown finishes, and you're now able to use the other copy so that you can keep it up 100% of the time. Now, in practice, people don't actually do this. That's what people used to do years and years ago. But for a long time now, what we'd like to do instead is use cooldown reduction. So you just reduce the cooldown of your single copy down to the shared cooldown. So the shared is sort of like the minimum amount of time you have to wait to activate an ability again after you've already activated it, regardless of how many copies you have or how much cooldown reduction you have. It's sort of like an absolute floor. You have to wait at least this long. So reducing that means you'll be able to have your firing modes more often, at least once every 30 seconds. It could potentially be useful for getting more high yield torpedoes. For firing modes that have like a duration of effect, probably not that useful. But for the torpedoes and mine firing modes, it could be pretty useful. We'll have to wait and see how it actually is in practice. A starship trait is a very valuable thing. It has a high opportunity cost, so even if it does turn out to be good, it may not be good enough to make the cut. The real gem, the real reason you might want to buy this ship, as soon as I saw these, I was like, whoa. The Type 7 shuttlecraft. The Ahawani command carrier has 2 hangar bays equipped with Federation Type 7 shuttlecraft equipped with extra sensor equipment. When deployed, they harass enemies with attack pattern beta and perform close-in sensor passes, debuffing foes' damage resistance rating via both effects. Foes with lower than 50% average shield facings take even greater penalties. Okay, so advanced and elite versions of these powerful frigates can be obtained from the Dilithium store and the Fleet Starbase, respectively. So these sound like they are going to be debuffing monsters. These may be the best new hangar pets in the game, just due to the raw amount of damage resistance reduction debuffs they can apply to enemies, and I am greatly looking forward to trying them. Normally, shuttlecraft are not frigates. I'm hoping that's a typo, but even if they are frigates, it's fine. They sound really powerful, and I'm looking forward to getting them. Next up is the Chekov Intel Science Warship. So this is a full Intel ship. It has a Commander Science Intel, so it is a science ship. It has a Lieutenant Commander Engineering Temp Ops. So Intel and Temp Ops are both specializations you want on a science vessel, so that's pretty good right there. A Lieutenant Commander Tactical, a Lieutenant Universal, and an Ensign Universal. Seems like pretty good bridge officer layout to me. It has a 4-3 weapon layout, which is nice for a science vessel, but that's because it is a science warship, so you do get that one extra weapon. You get 4 tactical, 2 engineering, and 5 science console slots. Base turn rate of 12, which is pretty nice. Then you also get the full Intel gimmicks, and it does have a built-in weapon. So it has, like the Juggernauts do, so it has an innate weapon that's just built into the ship, and that's the Tunneling Graviton Lance. The Chekov Intel Science Destroyer comes equipped with a Tunneling Graviton Lance. After a short charge-up time, this weapon fires a graviton beam forward, dealing significant physical damage and dragging foes hit towards the center of the beam, gathering them in a line shape. So that's pretty neat. It has no opportunity cost. It's just extra. It's built into the ship. Just go ahead and use it. Console Universal Fusion Cutting Beam Has passives here to exotic particle generation and crit severity, which would both be good on a science type ship. The clicky targets current foe, establishes a fusion cutting beam for 20 seconds that tracks your ship's primary target and sweeps around the battlefield, damaging foes over time in a line. Two foes in the beam, fire damage times 2 per second. Seems like a neat clicky. I don't know how powerful it'll be, but hopefully it's a fun effect, shooting a beam and all that. Starship trait, threaded particle projectors. While this trait is slotted using an Intel or Science Bridge Officer ability, applies a bonus to exotic particle generation for a moderate duration. So for 30 seconds, when triggered, you get between 30 and 75 EPG based on current crit severity. And then it says unrestricted. I don't know what that means. This 75 to me suggests that's the cap. That's the most you can get. I don't know that this is worth a Starship trait slot. I don't think that this is how you want to get your EPG. And even if you did want EPG, I think that the current meta, and I'm not like an exotic guy, so I could be wrong here. The super high EPG is not like the thing anymore. This feels underwhelming to me. It just doesn't seem good. But if you know a lot more about current exotic builds than I do, maybe you can chime in on that. Doesn't seem exciting to me. Seems kind of milquetoast. Okay, the Princeton Miracle Worker Cruiser. This is the last new ship here. And this has a Commander Tactical Command, so it's a full command ship. It has a Commander Engineering Miracle Worker, so it's a full Miracle Worker ship. It has a Lieutenant Commander Tactical Command. So Miracle Worker and Command are two specializations that go okay together. They go fairly well together. It has a Lieutenant Engineering, an Ensign Science, and a Lieutenant Commander Universal. That Lieutenant Commander Universal is pretty nice. It has 4 for tactical and 5 for engineering. Now, plus the 1 universal for being a full miracle worker. What I like about this is how flexible it is. If you wanted to just go raw, like energy weapon damage, you can do that. You have the full miracle worker seating, so you could get your narrow sensor bands, maybe your mixed armament synergy in there if you wanted to. You've got 5 engineering plus the universal. You could get 8 ISO mags on it. So this would make a very respectable directed energy weapon ship. However, you also have that command seat. So if you wanted to put torpedoes on here, you could make that work too. You could go for mixed armament synergy. You could get your torpedo high yield on there. You'd have the Lieutenant Commander Universal, so you would be able to get your high yield as well as your concentrate firepower 3 on there. Plus the 4 tactical and 1 universal means you could get 7 either locators or exploiters. So the flexibility here is quite high. If you want to do torpedoes, you can do torpedoes. You want to do energy weapons, you can do energy weapons. I like that a lot about this ship, and I like the way it looks too. So this is a pretty good ship, I think. I'm kind of a fan of this. The 4-4, everyone's not going to go, crazy for that, obviously. And it is a cruiser, so you're not going to be able to do cannons with it. But you could do beams, and that would be pretty good as well. So yeah, I like this ship. I think it's pretty good. It's not going to be like the best for energy weapons or the best for torpedoes, but the fact that you can kind of get away with either, I think, is a neat feature of this ship. Console, it comes with the Fractal Integrity Bleed. So the console provides a passive increase to maximum hull capacity and an increase to healing received that scales as your hull decreases. It has a toggle on it, so you can turn it off if you need to, up to 20 seconds each second while active, and you're above, your hull threshold, 33%. Enemies within 5 kilometers take radiation damage equal to 16% of your current hull capacity. And to yourself, you receive 8% of your current hull capacity as radiation damage. I think this kind of sucks. The clicky does. I don't think it's really going to do enough damage. Even if you had like 300,000 hull or something, it's just honestly not that much, especially since you're only going to have it active for 20 seconds out of every 2 minutes. You can obviously cool that down with traits and things like that, but to me, this, maybe I'm wrong, doesn't feel that good to me. But the passives might be worth it though. The increase in maximum hull capacity and healing receives could be useful for a tank. Maybe not, but it could be. So, the trait risk versus reward. While this trait is slotted, receiving hull healing will cause radiation damage directed to your currently targeted foe or nearest if you have no target. The amount of damage is equivalent to healing received. It may only trigger once per second and does not trigger while current hull is above 90%. That is the killer for me. I think it would suck even if it applied to all your hull healing, but the fact that it stops working above 90% hull so it doesn't trigger off of overheals really kills it. This seems completely useless to me. Okay, I am exhausted from reading all that. It's possible I made some mistakes. So if you want to help me out, click the like button, subscribe. Tomorrow I will start working on video reviews of all 4 ships and the extras and everything else. So stay tuned for more content on the 14th anniversary. And if they do decide to make some changes and add another ship, put the Parliament in, whatever, I'll post that on my community tab. If it's really a major change, I may do another video about it. Thanks for watching, guys. Live long and prosper. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.